It is 11:32. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mari Mukonda. Our hit list for today is a gender-based activist and rape survivor, Reverend June Dolley-Major, who's going to be sharing her story of how she was victimized 19 years ago. In an article published on 10th August 2021, Reverend June Major told a tribunal set up by the Anglican Church to hear sexual assault allegations against one of its priests that on the night of the alleged rape, she felt something in her that died. The accused faced charges including sexual assault, sexual harassment, sexual immorality, and a violation of the church's constitution. He pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. Reverend June Dolley-Major is joining me to share her story. Good morning, Reverend Major, and thank you for joining me.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Right now, your ordeal happened about 19 years ago. Tell us what exactly happened. When did the nightmare begin?
Yeah, it started in 2002, and sadly, it's most rape cases it's usually someone whom you know. In this
Hmm.
case, he was a priest in the Anglican Church of Southern Africa, and I was preparing to become a priest, and we went to Makanda, which was then known as Grahamstown, and that was in 2002, nearly 20 years back. And that's where it actually happened. The rape, we entered the room where I was in, and he forced himself upon me. And so it's been a painful journey. It's a long journey, but yeah, it still continues.
Mm-hmm. And it still continues. What was your relationship like with the clergy before the incident and now after the incident has happened and you tried to get justice?
Well, before, obviously, everyone seemed to get along pretty well. And now
Mm.
I'm treated as a leper, honestly, as if I've been ousted into a camp for the outcasts. No clergy has actually reached out to me, not once, including the Archbishop himself after my last hunger strike in 2020. That was literally, again, the last time that I've seen him. So no clergy has reached out to me. And in 2016, with my first hunger strike, a letter was read out in the churches, which came from the diocese, which basically said that no one is to make any contact with me or be in contact with me in any form whatsoever. And they
Mm.
honestly lived true to that. So no clergy has reached out to me. Privately, yes, they say they're praying for me and that they support me, but
Mm.
publicly they cannot do it because they're under that vow of canonical obedience to the bishop and his and her successors. So privately, they're telling me that they're supporting me, some of them, and they will tell
Mm.
me that publicly because their jobs are on the line and they're too afraid to lose their jobs because they have families to take care of. So publicly, no, they will not support me.
And how does that make you feel knowing that you have support from some people and you don't have support from others, and then the support is also not publicly; it's on the side. So it's kind of like not 100% support, but it is some support.
It's heartbreaking because just as there's no public support, there's also been a vilification publicly, which came from the clergy and high-ranking clergy too. With one clergy person publicly told me to go to hell and that I'm diabolical and satanic, and that was quite triggering for myself, as well as
Hmm.
many other survivors who had messaged me and said they were deeply triggered because how can you tell a clergy person to go to hell who speaks about her rape and then come and minister to one of your own parishioners who are going through the same thing? So as much as they privately support me, it would it's heartbreaking because I've been one of the own. I've been an Anglican all my life. I was baptized in this institution and I became a priest here. And it's heartbreaking in all honesty. It really honestly it tears me apart on so many different levels. And the fact that there is no support. And I'll be honest, I get quite triggered when I see the Archbishop
Hmm.
speaking out against corruption in government when I'm very much aware of what's happening within his own institution, which is not
Exactly.
addressing. And to me, it's not always been about only myself, but I'm very much aware of all the boys who have been raped for decades and decades and has been covered up. And that continues to cover up. And it really hurts me because this institution was at the forefront against fighting against apartheid. And now it's again at the forefront fighting against corruption. But when it comes to what's happening inside its own institution, they're just quiet about it.
Hmm. And it's funny because these are people that the community look up to. These are people that the community seeks advice from. You go to them thinking that they are providing a safe space for you, yet this is what they are doing behind closed doors. So, are these really people of God? Are these people really meant to serve and help us the way they make the vows before God? I mean, really, you can't say one thing and then do another. But going back to your ordeal, this incident happened in 2002, yet you laid charges in 2015. Why did it take you so long to actually muster up the courage to lay charges?
People always say you need to break the silence, and I've learned
Mm,
that you need to break the fear before you can actually break the silence. And when I spoke with my bishop about it, he was the one that told me, you need to be quiet to protect the institution, the Anglican Church of Southern Africa. Consider the
mhm,
institution. It's not just about you. Consider the reputation of the institution, and constantly reminding me of my vow of canonical obedience to my bishop and his or her successors. So, being newly ordained, knowing that I've taken this vow not too long ago of canonical obedience, I obeyed my bishop. But within that silence, it affected me. I had those nightmares, the migraines, I was getting sick, and all these things were happening. And it was literally only when a family member was raped by a family member. And I spoke to my family member and I said, why don't you report the rape? And he said to me that it's a close member of the family that did it. In that moment, I realized that I was being a hypocrite because just as he was
mhm,
keeping silent to protect his family, the bishop ordered me to keep silent, and I did it because I obeyed and I was fearful to break that vow of canonical obedience. And so it was in that moment when I literally told my cousin not to do it. Did I realize that I'm being a hypocrite? And it was in that moment that I decided to lay the charge, but also to go very public with my rape because people needed to know how difficult it is to actually break the silence and being very public with the vilification, with the triggers, with everything that comes with it, so people can understand what it's actually like to be a rape survivor and to actually speak out about it, the highs and all the lows that come with it also.
mhm. And how has this changed your life, Reverend? All right, let us take a quick break and we will continue with Reverend June Dolley-Major after the break.
Welcome to Libertas Group, a blockchain developing company boasting an ecosystem that continually redefines the way we do business. Our blockchain is decentralized, making it immune to hacking or alteration, putting the power back in your hands with no middleman so you can focus on the growth of your business. Libertas, the simplest investment choice you'll make.
With so many investment options today, it's only natural that you might feel a little confused which route to take. Should I buy shares or should I invest in gold bullion? Randery Jewelers now brings you the Zahab coin, an alternative to the Kruger Rand. The Zahab coin, a solid wealth protector in its purest form of 24-karat gold, is the safest way to protect your wealth. So don't just sit there and watch your paper money depreciate. Change to gold. Call Randery Jewelers now at 031 202 4701 or visit www.rjcoin.co.za, situated at 151 Essenwood Road, Musgrave, Durban. Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Perform your Kurbani with Sanzaf and earn extra rewards as 15 Rand from every Kurbani will be given towards the Sanzaf Masjid Waqf. Africa, 750 Rand, and locally 1,980 Rand per share. Visit us at sanzaf.org.za or call us on 011 834 6046. Sanzaf, changing lives through development and relief.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media, and today we are talking to Reverend June Dolley-Major, who is a rape survivor, and she is sharing her story with us, something that happened over 19 years ago, and how she has decided to break the silence and to hashtag say his name. You can also share your comments and questions with us in the comment section, or you can send us a message on or voice note on WhatsApp. The number is 061 766 0355. Reverend Dolley-Major, thank you for coming back. We lost you there a bit. Now, how has this ordeal changed your life, especially since knowing that the clergy decided to just shun you and then just throw you out to the wolves, basically?
It affected me in a huge way, not only emotionally and psychologically and mentally, but I was prevented from working in my field as a priest, and papers was withheld, which meant I couldn't apply for work anywhere. And so that literally meant that I had no income. And came a stage where I actually used all the money I had, and I ended up physically on the streets where I actually was homeless, where I started selling my furniture and my possessions just to survive, and it truly hurt me deeply. And I just realized that the hypocrisy within this institution and what's supposed to be a safe space is really honestly not a safe space, and how people actually follow blindly, that even though they see the injustice, even though they see what is wrong, but they put clergy on a pedestal, the hierarchy, the patriarchy on a pedestal, and and justify what they are doing without asking questions. And so yes, it's affected me hugely, and it continued to affect me, the fact that, and especially when it comes to certain seasons within the church, whether it be Easter, Holy Week, Lent, Christmas, and the times when we're usually very busy as a priest within the church. But every day of my life, it honestly truly affects me negatively.
Mm-hmm. Did you get any support from the women? Because sometimes, when something like this here happens, and when you get clergy who will shun you, and you'll get a group of women who will support the clergy, saying that no, yes, why did she do this? Yeah, who told her to go there? Blah blah blah. People always have comments for something that didn't really happen to them, or something that they don't really understand.
No, 100% correct. Now call them the handmaidens of patriarchy, that they do not
Mm-hmm.
understand it. And whatever the patriarchy says, that is correct, and they follow blindly. So yes, definitely, there have been those women who just follow blindly whatever patriarchy says, whatever the clergy says, that's what they will do, and that's what they'll believe. So yes, I received verification from them as well. And the biggest one was actually the bishop who silenced me. He's then secretary. And the saddest thing is that that very same bishop that silenced me is the same bishop who suspended my rapist for another case where he sexually molested the parish secretary at a church where he was at, and he was caught on video camera. And when I brought that up at the tribunal, the bishop who ran the tribunal said, I cannot bring it into this arena because no criminal charge was brought against him. So the bishop was silenced me, the one who had this video footage, the one who suspended my rapist for that sexual offense, then at my tribunal speaks on behalf of my rapist. And so I just completely felt raped all over, you know, by the church, by the hierarchy, by the institution. And these women that you refer to, they know all these things. People know what this
Mm,
man has done in other churches as well. But because he's a priest and the bishop supports him, they obey the bishop because that's the hierarchical way it goes. And so, yes, I didn't receive much support from the women within the church. There are some women who are publicly speaking out. Some even publicly said they left the Mothers Union because of what had happened with me. And so I do have some of that support. But sadly, there are those women who still stick to the hierarchy.
mhm. Now, tell us about the hashtag Say His Name campaign and how has this campaign helped victims of rape or sexual assaults or harassment?
Yeah, so I counsel a lot of rape survivors. And what seems to
Mhm,
be the trend is that they rape you. And as soon as you publicly speak about it for healing of whichever reason, even if it's a child, what the rapists then do, they run to the court to take out protection orders against their victims or their families. They go to the police station and they get these protection orders. Or they go to the
mm,
police station and they lay charges of intimidation or harassment. And they succeed with that. In me naming my rapist, and that's where the Say His Name campaign started, I said his name
mm,
publicly because by law, you know you're innocent until proven guilty, and media will always say the alleged rapist. So, as a
mhm,
survivor myself, which I prefer to call myself a wounded healer, I don't subscribe to those terms as alleged because I was there. I know what he did to me. So, I decided to say his name publicly on Facebook because I know it's my Facebook account, so I can say it there because the media would not say his name because he's not been charged in a criminal court of law yet. So
mhm,
I said his name, and he then retaliated and went to high court to gag me and then to silence me. And that is the trend. So my legal team, I had an amazing legal team, and it was Anwar Burtis was my senior counsel, and then Chandra Brown, junior counsel, and an amazing attorney, Bradley Jones, and the Women's Legal Center came on board as a friend of the court. And they had issued a statement basically saying that, and I can say his name because of that gag order, by the way. So
mhm,
they had said that it is not two names on paper, Major versus Boyson or Boyson versus Major, sorry. But in fact, it involves millions of South Africans. And it went to the High Court, and that was a cause I was willing to go to jail for. That if the judge so ruled in favor of my rapist, I would have left that courtroom and said his name on the steps of the High Court because I needed to stand by survivors. You cannot rape us and then run to the court to call, shout now all of a sudden your constitutional rights and then expect us to pay for that silencing. But
mm,
miraculously, the judge so ruled in my favor that even though he was not yet found guilty in a criminal court, she said I could say his name. And precedent was set with that case, which basically gave hope to, to every survivor in our country, saying that you do have a right because you cannot silence us. You know, that suppression of what happened to you is too traumatizing. And that's why we have so many committing rape. And the hashtag say his name, I believe is important because if you
mhm,
say the names of certain people, then certain children and women and men would be alive today. Like Pangaka, for example, that killed and raped little Taznay. If somebody said his name and said, listen, there's a rapist, there's a pedophile in our midst because he had a criminal record. He was a parolee also for killing his own son. If those names were mentioned, little Taznay would be alive today because a family would know he's not safe to be around. And so many
mhm.
others, you know. And so that's why I believe in the Say His Name campaign, that we need to protect each other, ourselves, our families, our communities.
Definitely. And now let's go back to the justice system. Now we've seen and we know that the justice system doesn't really protect victims. In fact, it supports perpetrators, like you mentioned, that they would go and get a protection order and succeed. So, how does that protect the victim? You are the one who was violated. You are the one who had your innocence taken away from you. You know, you lost something, a part of you there. And I mean, let's look at a child, for example, a baby who has had this happen to them, and all of a sudden a protection order is taken out against them and their families. Why? What can we do about the justice system? Because obviously it is protecting the perpetrators more than the victims.
No, correct. And that's why I believe in my activism takes it one level further. You mentioned a child and a baby. So if a child under the age of 6 gets raped, the child is too young to testify. And this
Hmm.
happens, and I've dealt with many cases, and it gets thrown out of court because the child is too young to testify. So that is feeding ground for pedophiles if they just keep their victims under the age of 6. So what I've done now and what I will continue to do is that I will start holding SEPs, FCS, NPA, parole boards accountable. And one of the ways I've done it is that I've recently gone to the Department of the Office of the Public Protector to lay charges against certain parole boards and parole officers who allowed killers and rapists free and who reoffended and raped and killed again. Parole officers who know that their parolees have absconded and is now off the radar cannot be monitored, but did not
Hmm.
send out a press release and say, listen, this man is on the run, be on the lookout, he is a rapist, he is a killer. So I'm laying charges against them now. I'm laying charges against individual police officers that's not doing their jobs. I've gone to the office of the presidency to say I'd like him to approve a commission into historical child sexual offenses within the churches and open to other religions as well. So I truly believe that activism needs to take a completely different turn right now because every 3 hours a woman's being killed. One in three
Hmm.
women in her lifetime will be sexually molested or raped. And we need to change that narrative in our lifetime.
Hmm. Definitely. There was an event once that was held, and during that, the discussions, they asked who amongst it was a group of women, so they asked who from here has been violated sexually by anyone they know, and it was only you could see like only about two or three women did not lift up their hands because that's the problem that we have. And if we do not talk about it, if we do not report it, if we not do not break the silence and say the perpetrator's name, we're going to be continuing to create like a breeding ground for pedophiles, for rapists, and
Yes.
something definitely needs to be done. With the little time that we have left, Reverend, what is your advice? What do you want the world to know about what happened to you? And obviously, now moving forward, being a survivor.
Well, first, as I said, it was never always just about me, but what I would like to know is
Hmm.
believe survivors. You know, rapists do not fall from the sky. They're not from a different planet. They're one of us. Stop enabling your partners, your husbands, your uncles, your grandfathers. Stop enabling them. Stop victim blaming and body shaming. What a woman wears, where she goes, what she does not justify rape. Believe a victim and walk alongside her, create that safe spaces, and be there for each other. To the men who are not rapists, you have to speak up, stand up and speak up, and not be afraid. The women should not be in this fight alone. You need to step up as men.
Right. So thank you so much for your time, Reverend, and for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me.
Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.
Thanks, you too. Bye bye.
And that was Reverend June Dolley-Major sharing her story of how she was raped about 19 years ago. And she's a gender-based violence activist and rape survivor. She was victimized, and now she is motivating and inspiring, and also counseling other victims of a rape. And she's doing great. She's doing a great job right now, and she has also launched the campaign hashtag Say His Name, so that people can know who the perpetrators are, and obviously something needs to be done. The justice system definitely needs to pull up their socks. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mariam Mukwanda. We will be right back.